having a conversation with a friend of mine the other day, and he said, it's interesting to me that they started using the word insurrection. From the very beginning, January 6th, the word was insurrection. I don't know if you guys know this or not, but that's not a word that gets tossed around a lot. Like, that's a 19th century word. It's not one that gets a lot of modern usage, especially in the 21st century. Nobody's really been talking a lot about insurrections. But then January 6th happened, and suddenly it was on everybody's lips. You know, I told you guys for years that there's all these vocabulary words that emerge and suddenly become part of our everyday language. Words like COVID and pandemic and, gender studies. And suddenly insurrection was on everybody's tongue, these insurrectionists. And now we're seeing people who are going to jail for a long, long period of time. The leader of the Proud Boys, what's his name? Terrio. He was sentenced to 22 years. The prosecution was going after 30. He wasn't even at the Capitol. It's interesting to me that this travesty of justice that's happening built around this concept of insurrection, which I don't know that prior to January 6th of 2020, many people could really define insurrection. I think probably if you ask a man on the street, most of them couldn't define it now. But they still use the word. This concept has become prevalent. And so someone was asking me, why that word? And so it set me on a little bit of a little research trip. And I want to unpack that for you a little bit, why they're using the word insurrection. Now, if you will, Brandon, I want you to play for me an old clip. This is the debate between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Play this clip.
You have repeatedly criticized the vice president for not specifically calling out Antifa and other left-wing extremist groups. But are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland?
Sure,
are you
I'm
prepared
to
specifically
do it?
Well, go ahead, sir.
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing.
So what are you saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see peace.
Then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it.
Do you want to call him? What do you want to call him? Give me a name. Give me a
white
name.
Supremacists and
Who would
right
you like me to condemn?
White supremacists and right
Proud
militia.
Boys, stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left, because this is not a right-wing problem. This is a left-wing.
FBI director
This is a left-wing problem.
White supremacists. Antifa's an idea, not an organization.
Oh, you got to be
not
kidding.
militia. That's what his FBI. His FBI director said.
Well, then you know what?
No, we're done, sir. We're moving on to the next. We're moving.
When a bat hits you over the head, that's not an idea.
Everybody in your administration
bad.
tells you the truth has a bad idea.
Can I tell you what?
You have no ideas.
Antifa is a dangerous,
all right,
radical
gentlemen,
group.
we're now moving on to the Trump and Biden records.
They'll overthrow you.
When a president, I'm going to ask a question.
And I'd like to slap him in the mouth still. They knew right then, at that point in the debate, when he said to the Proud Boys, which again, you got a moderator there who is leading and being misleading when he says white supremacist groups and all that, and then automatically throws in Proud Boys, because again, that's begging the question: how are you associating white supremacy with Proud Boys? That's again, you're lumping people in there together. That's another debate and another thing for another day, but. When Trump said, stand back and stand by, when he said that, they knew that regardless of what happened with the election, Trump's rhetoric was going to be something they could use against him. Joe Biden called Antifa an idea. No, it's literally a group of people. But they attempt to mislead the listener by saying, oh, this is not really a person. Antifa's not really a group of people. That's just an idea. But the Proud Boys, they're actual, white supremacists. They're nationalists. They're whatever you want to say. Like Trump said, what do you want me to call them? What do you want me to call them? I'll tell them right now, stand back, stand by. That was Trump's way, in Trumpese, his way of saying, hey, get out of the way, guys. Stand down. But they knew when he said that they could get him on his rhetoric. Now, on January 6th, Trump gave a speech. And they're trying to say that Donald Trump told people to go and invade the Capitol building and overturn the election. Play that clip from that speech.
Now it is up to Congress to confront this egregious assault on our democracy. And after this, we're going to walk down, and I'll be there with you. We're going to walk down. We're going to walk down anyone you want, but I think right here we're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women, and we're probably not going to be cheering so much for some of them, because you'll never take back our country with weakness. You have to show strength, and you have to be strong.
Now, what they're saying there is that he was instigating. Immediately, they had the word picked out, an insurrection. This is a guy, Donald Trump, who had already asked for 10,000 more National Guards troops to be added. Speculation's been as high as 20, but let's say 10,000 more. Nancy Pelosi said no. The fact that they already had the word insurrection, because it was immediate, the fact that they had that narrative, that word picked out to define and describe what was happening on January 6th, tells me that what happened on January 6th was in many ways instigated. In many ways, it was rigged. There's a lot of questions that still need to be answered. I mean, there's 41,000 hours of footage that nobody's ever going to get to, especially when, if you know the rules, those journalists who are allowed to go in and review the security camera footage from, I think, 17,000 cameras, are only allowed to go into that room once a week, and then only for 3 hours. How are you going to do that? 3 hours a week, you're going to get through 41,000 hours. You'd have to go back to it would take thousands of years to do that. But they had the word insurrection picked out. The reason is because now what they're doing is they're trying to keep Donald Trump off the ballots. Now, they've attempted stuff like this in the past, and their attempts for it now so far are failing because the courts are throwing it out. And I think they're going to have a hard time doing it. But they're doing it on the basis of the 14th Amendment. Now, what is the 14th Amendment? 14th Amendment was adopted in the late 1800s in order to keep those who served in the Confederate Army, who were a part of the South during the Civil War, from ever being elected to office because they had, quote, taken an oath to serve a foreign entity against the United States. So that means they did not want Confederates who had served in the Confederate Army being president. They didn't want them being the mayor. They didn't want them being anything as an elected official because, and I want to read to you Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. No person shall be a senator or representative in Congress or elector of president and vice president or hold any office, civil or military, under the United States or under any state who, having previously taken an oath as a member of Congress or as an officer of the United States, as a member of any state legislature, or as an executive or judicial officer or any state to support the Constitution of the United States, shall have engaged, here's the word, go all the way back to the late 1800s, engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same, or given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof. But Congress may, by a vote of 2/3 of each house, remove such disability. There's the word. They had it picked out because they knew they had to stop Donald Trump no matter what. Now, this is the guy who ordered more security at the Capitol. This is the guy who said, we're going to go down and we're going to cheer on our congressmen and senators. This is the guy who said, we're going to give a strong show of force. What did he mean? We're going to be there in numbers, showing that we're patriotic Americans and we believe in not only the process, but we do believe in liberty. We believe that something wrong has happened here. But let me ask you a question. If they knew all the way back, January 6th of 2020, that they were going to try to use the 14th Amendment if Donald Trump ever was to run again, they already had that word picked out because they already had it planned. No matter what was going to happen, they were going to try to use his rhetoric at bare minimum against him. But then, of course, the, quote, attack on the Capitol happened, right? That's what tells me they had to make it happen. They had to have that happen on January 6th, which further bolsters the idea that it was an inside job, that they knew it was coming, that it was instigated. Listen, when protesters are standing there and suddenly you're throwing flash grenades into the crowd to agitate them, yeah, I'm thinking something's going to happen. There's going to be a reaction to the stimulus. They'll stop at nothing to stop this man. And that includes death. We've talked about assassination on this. Tucker Carlson's talking about it. If Joe Biden got 81 million votes, he's the most popular president in the history of the world, in the history of the United States. What are they afraid of? Why would they be worried about Donald Trump? Everybody hates him, right? Mainstream media hates him. Hollywood hates him. Everybody with a platform, everybody with a voice, they all hate Donald Trump. Why wouldn't they let him on the ballot? What are they so scared of that they've got to take this guy out? And they know that this idea of the 14th Amendment is not going to stand. He's still going to be on the ballot. They're not going to. Listen, even Alan Dershowitz, who plans to vote against Donald Trump again, has stated over and over again that he has the right at least to vote against the man. This ploy is as un-American, unpatriotic, and against the cause of liberty as anything can possibly be. Now, I'll remind you guys what these people are capable of. People like Barack Obama and Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton when she was Secretary of State. Remember how they took out Muammar Gaddafi and the way they did that? You need to go back and do a little research on that. Now, I'm not saying Gaddafi was a good person. But, you know, when he's taken out of his home, he's dragged through the street, he's beaten, he's sodomized, and then he's murdered. That's what they did. And that's what they'll do to Trump if they got the opportunity. These are cold-blooded killers, folks. These are cold-blooded killers. They take out their opposition. And I promise you, if this 14th Amendment ploy doesn't work, they'll be coming after Trump's life. And they better pray to God that not one hair on that man's head gets harmed, or it's going to be a problem, a major problem. We're sitting on a powder keg. But that's why they've used that word. They had it planned from the very beginning. They had to carry out the plan, and that's why I'm convinced it was instigated. Instigated, folks. Insurrection. Nobody tosses around the word insurrection.